Welcome to Conversations with Anne Elizabeth, the podcast inspired by my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What?, where I have the absolute joy to sit back, relax, and have a conversation about nutrition with a variety of people who share their personal story of passion and purpose, especially registered dietitians. Today's conversation is with Jenny Rawn, a registered dietitian who shares her seafoodie-inspired coastal life with her family through recipes and food photography. Do you ever just meet a person and click and connect instantly? Jenny is that person to me. We have never met in person, but I feel as if I've known her my whole life. Jenny shares a unique path to dietetics by being interested in health at a very young age, making connections with food by learning from her athletic mom, and navigating her path to nutrition, communications, and marketing. She currently is an entrepreneur focusing on recipe development with her kids as her favorite sous chefs. Please enjoy my conversation with Jenny.
Okay.
Well, I am very excited to finally get to meet you semi in person over the podcast and hopefully someday to meet actually in person. But it's so exciting to have you on the air, and I'm very excited to learn about your journey in our fabulous field of dietetics.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Anne. I know, I feel like this has been a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to our conversation for quite a bit. And yes, hopefully like at Fancy this year, we'll get to meet in person or, maybe even sooner. So thanks a lot for having me on today.
Absolutely. And yes, Fancy, that's going to be, I'm coming. So we have got to meet up for sure.
Good. Yes. We'll plan a date.
Good.
Coffee or a tea date or lunch.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I know it's going to take a little bit to dig deep and kind of go back into those first days of when maybe nutrition kind of became on your radar. When did you kind of start your interest in dietetics, nutrition, or health related?
Yeah. So, and we will have to, I'll have to go back many, many years. But it's funny because I remember being a little kid and, in grade school and high school, I was always really interested in health and kind of how food affects our health. Which is weird to say, but I remember, vividly times of, thinking about, like if I eat this, orange after soccer practice, I feel better than, if I eat this Twinkie that the parents brought, I remember starting to kind of connect the dots on health, as a little kid. And I was always really interested. My mom is an athlete and my dad was too, but not so much anymore. But my mom was, not a health nut, but she definitely had, nutrition and eating well and feeding us veggies. She had health on her radar. And as a child, I remember her, just serving us a variety of vegetables. And, she had these big, beautiful salads and she was a runner and is still a runner, although now she has, quite a bit of arthritis, but she loved to be active. And I think she kind of instilled the love for running and walking and, being in nature and all of that with me and my two younger sisters. So I think my interest really started with her. And my dad, of course, kind of, has gone along for the ride, and he's, definitely not a health nut. But he actually was in the food business. He worked for Jaquita, and Heinz and, quite a few other, food companies. So he has a big history, in the food business. So, anyhow, so I kind of went through school, and it's funny because people that I went to grade school with sometimes say to me, like, Jenny, you're I remember you saying that, when you're older, you want to have a job where you can help people and help them eat well. And, I've had quite a few people come back to me and say, you're the only one that I know that actually has a career doing stuff that you talked about doing, way back when.
No way. That's crazy.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And then it makes me think, okay, like maybe I did have, I feel like doctors and, lawyers oftentimes have like, quote unquote calling.
Sure.
But I really do feel like, like nutrition is my calling. And of course, being able to help others and kind of inspire them to live a healthier lifestyle is really, a true passion. And, the more I can help people, the better. But anyhow, so I was an athlete in grade school and high school. I was on the soccer team, and then I was on the crew team in high school, and actually I had a couple of colleges, not recruit me, but offer me no scholarship, but just like, we'd love to have you on our team. And I ended up going to Boston University for the crew program. But also because it was near, I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio at the time, and I always loved Cape Cod and Massachusetts. And I knew that Boston was near Cape Cod, which is sort of ridiculous, one of the reasons to go to school nearby there. But that truly, went through my high school brain. Don't tell my dad, but it's true. So went to BU, and I should back up and say that my family, I was born in Connecticut, in Stamford, Connecticut, and we lived in Norwalk, Connecticut for the first 5 years of my life. And then we moved out to Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was there. We were there as a family from age 5 to age 18. And then, until I went off to college, and they actually moved overseas. But that's a story for another day. But anyhow, so I went to BU, I went to Boston University, and I, was deciding on a major. And I, knew I had a great interest in nutrition, and BU actually has an amazing nutrition program for undergrads. And my ridiculous 18-year-old self chose not to do nutrition because I would have to take science courses. And I like organic chemistry and even biology and, biochem and all of that, like scared the heck out of me. Mm-hmm. So I chose to, not the easy route, but I chose a route that wasn't my true passion. I majored in psychology and rode for 2 years, and I quit after 2 years. It was just too much. But I went through and graduated with a major in psychology. And I guess my junior year, and I liked psychology, but I knew I never really wanted to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and, wasn't really sure what the heck I was going to do with that major in real life.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of feel that way, though. Like, it looks like a good major, but then you're like, what am I going to do with it?
Right. Yeah. Like, do you know anybody? I mean, I guess I know a couple people that they're doing what they studied in college, but not many, right?
No way. If they did, it's a miracle. Like they really knew what they were going to do. They didn't get sidetracked. So cheers to them. But most people change.
Right. I totally agree. But I just I guess looking back, it seems kind of like, well, why didn't you know? Like I asked myself that, like, you could have saved yourself so much time if you, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. So I started thinking about real life, coming towards, nearing the end of undergrad. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? And then I'm like, Jenny, like, why don't you follow what you love? Why don't you do something, follow your true passion, which was nutrition. And, I was always interested in food companies. And, since my dad worked for Chiquita and Heinz, and, I kind of, I did have quite a bit of curiosity in, these larger food companies. And I started looking around at graduate programs in nutrition, and I found the Tufts program, at the Friedman School. And I said, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. This is what I want to do. I want to either work for a food company as a registered dietitian, or I want to, be a health writer and write for Self or, Cooking Light or whatever. And so I started doing a lot of research into other programs, and I said, no, like really the Tufts one looks like a really good fit. And, of course, my parents, they were always supportive of, whatever I wanted to do. But, they're like, well, don't you think you should have some backups? and, you're probably not going to get in. It's a popular program, whatever. And I'm like, well, like I can't find anything else that I really like. And this is the one. And if I don't get in, it's not meant to be. And they're like, okay, well, you need to have a plan B. So, and that's happened many times, in life where I'm like, no, this is the one, like this has to be the one. And, it didn't really have backup plans, but, knock on wood, a lot of times things worked out. So
good.
Yeah. So ended up getting into, to the program and did my master's. I actually did a dual degree in, public health, focusing on health communications, and then, my master's in nutrition and, food policy.
Oh, wow.
So it was a great program. And, of course, as I'm going through my master's, I'm seeing all these great dietitians or these great nutritionists that are RDs. And I'm like, okay, I really need to, if I'm going to be respected in the nutrition world and do what I want to do, I really need to become a registered dietitian. So while I was doing my master's, I went back and went to UMass Boston and took all of those courses that I should have taken as an undergrad.
Oh,
I did.
Gosh, I was going to ask how that worked, because I was like, well, did you end up having to go back and do all those sciences?
Yep, I did. And I don't know how your brain works, but like those I don't know, like that stuff doesn't come naturally to me.
No.
So
me either.
Okay. Yeah. So it's, and some dietitians it does, and that's amazing, but I'm just not a science person. I'm not a clinical person. So it was really, those courses were really hard, but I got through them barely. But I got through.
Good job.
So that's what's important, right? You passed.
Yes.
So ended up, let's see, going through, did my master's and then was finishing up DPD courses, and then similarly to the Tufts program, I found a great internship that seemed like the perfect fit for me, because I knew I didn't want to go the clinical route. And I heard a lot of dietitians at that point in time, because I had spoken to a lot of, had a lot of mentors and spoken to a lot of dietitians just about, career paths and stuff. And I said, I really don't want to, I'm not a clinical person. I spending a year in a hospital would be a real challenge for me. I'm not a fan of hospitals, and, I would not enjoy that experience. And, most people said, well, just, you got to do that clinical, you got to have that clinical experience, and, ended up finding the Simmons College program, which is more community based, and you spend, I think it's like 9 months or something, but you spend like a couple months, a couple months at, a variety of different, you go to the Office of Elder Affairs, the Department of Public Health. You do clinical for a couple months, and you just kind of bounce around to get, this broad-based community experience. And so I ended up getting matched to that program, and it was awesome. And it was just, I did spend 2 or 3 months, I can't remember the time frame, but I spent time at Children's Hospital in Boston, which, was really challenging for me, just, seeing the little munchkins there, so sick, and, but also an amazing experience because of the staff, the amazing dietitians there, and, the doctors and all the staff, at the hospital. But, it was a hard time for mentally and, emotionally. I found that really challenging. And then let's see, am I being too long-winded for you?
No, not at all. I love it.
Okay, good. So interrupt me at any point, please. So I ended up, when I was doing my dietetic internship, I'm like, okay, what's next, right? Like what's on my, what kind of jobs am I going to look for? Where am I going to look for them? And again, I went back to sort of, I would have loved to work for a food company or, or a magazine, and, you know, started looking at jobs. There weren't many. There weren't many out there, but, you know, just started to keep my eyes and ears open. And I actually was shopping. I shopped at Shaw's Supermarkets, which is and I lived in the Back Bay in Boston at the time. Hi, bud. And the grocery store where I shopped, I heard, and I had been thinking about retail dietitians, but I actually don't know if I even knew that was an option. I don't think there were many retail RDs at the time. I guess this was like 2006, 2007. And, you know, I was thinking like, gosh, it would be great to have like a dietitian at the supermarket. And, you know, I wonder if they have those things. And then I was shopping one day and I heard, you know, on the in-store radio, which I know you know well, probably, yes. You probably have your voice on the
all
IV.
The time.
Yep. Okay. So I heard this girl, you know, like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm the Shaw's wellness coach, you know, and then give some like nutrition or health tip or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, they have a dietitian. And so I, you know, quickly went online and I looked her up and I'm like, who is this girl? That's awesome that they have one. And, you know, maybe they need another one. Mm-hmm. And I saw that, that she was a fitness instructor, which is awesome. And she was a wellness coach, but she wasn't a dietitian. But she was giving all of this, you know, nutrition information. And I'm like, like they really need a dietitian. I mean, yes. You know, it's great that they have this wellness coach, but, you know, what the heck? You know, how can I trust what this woman, you know, what this lady is saying about, you know, whatever nutrition tip she's giving. So I ended up sending them an email, you know, saying, you guys really need to have a dietitian. You know, do you need one? I am one. I'd love to come chat. Yeah, exactly. I'd love to come chat. So and then I don't think I heard anything back. And then a couple weeks went by and I saw a job posting through, it might've been like FCP or something like that. One of the practice groups, you know, job postings. Oh, sure. And it was for a retail dietitian in the Boston area. But it didn't say which one. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, this is great. This is great timing. So ended up interviewing and it was actually for a marketing company. I don't know if you've heard of Promo Point Marketing. They're not really around much anymore. Uh-uh. But, so it was a marketing company that hired dietitians and then place them in retailers. So basically, like I got hired to be the Shaw's registered dietitian. And I sat in Shaw's and I worked with, like, to everyone else, I was a Shaw's employee, but I actually worked for an outside marketing company.
Interesting. So you didn't even know it was for Shaw's when you interviewed.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yes. So it was one of those things that was, you know, I don't know. I think it was meant to be. It was like, and the cool thing was, but sometimes not so cool thing is like, that was like the most awesome job ever. I mean, you know, as a supermarket dietitian, your role is so varied and there's so many exciting things going on and you get to help so many people, like, because everybody shops for food. So it was just, yeah, it was a cool job. So I basically landed my dream job right out of grad school, which, you know, I was extremely, extremely lucky. You know, one of those things where you're in the right place at the right time and you hit it off with, really well with the people that you're interviewing with. And yeah, so I didn't know it was for Shaw's and, but it was, and ended up starting there. And the wellness coach actually didn't last for, I think she was there for 2 more weeks because they hired me as, to kind of manage this program. It was a vendor funded program. So to be the dietitian and to do all the nutrition communications work. And then this other gal would do, you know, any of the fitness type stuff that Shaw's would do, or, you know, writing fitness articles and, contributing to their newsletter and, you know, doing any social media and events and things. We would kind of be like a duo.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but she didn't last very long. So, so then
she was like, oh no, Jenny is way smarter than I am in nutrition. I'm in trouble.
Oh God, no. But I think she yeah. I mean, the sad part is, I think she got hired for a job that was way, like, to your point. Yeah, she knew nothing about. Well, she knew a little bit about nutrition, right? Mm-hmm. Like, just as a general person and as a fitness instructor. But yeah, I think she was a little bit over her head as far as what the role entailed, because the role was very, very, broad. And and you need the nutrition expertise of a registered dietitian. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there began, kind of my career and my love for, all the vendor partners. And I sat in merchandising. Where do you sit? Actually in the store?
Yes, I'm in the store. So okay. I was going to ask, were you like a corporate dietitian then, or were you actually in a store?
Yeah. So I was a corporate dietitian.
Okay.
So Shaw's at the time, I mean, so much has changed since I started. It was, like 12 years ago. But I got hired as the corporate dietitian. So I think there was like 175 stores at the time. Wow. So I sat at the headquarters were in Massachusetts, West Bridgewater, Massachusetts. And I sat in merchandising, and I worked with all the, all the different desks within merchandising. So the organic desk and dairy and, all those guys and gals. And, we basically worked with all the vendor partners, to fund the program. And we had like an end cap in every store that was, with items handpicked by me. And then we did a newsletter that, featured a lot of the vendor products and had a lot of recipes and, health and fitness articles and things. And then worked closely with marketing, but really was pretty ingrained, within merchandising, and did also actually worked very closely with HR doing employee wellness stuff.
Okay.
And with the communications department. So we did a lot of media at the time, and we had an agency that did a lot of the pitching for media segments. But I did work closely with communications to, for events and speaking engagements and, different media opportunities.
So were you kind of pulled all over then, like where they were located, or did you kind of stay in a central location and just kind of do more local interaction?
Yeah, great question. So, yes, and I was definitely pulled all over for sure, because there were stores up in, based in Massachusetts, but stores as, in northern Maine. I can't remember how far north they went. So I would do some stuff around the New England states, but really, for the most part, I stayed in Massachusetts and really Eastern Massachusetts. And I did some store events, but I would say most of the stuff we tried to do as much as we could through through in-store radio, doing changing up the weekly messages over the in-store radio and having these different items on sale, and doing the newsletter. We had a newsletter that was on this end cap in every store. So we tried to do a lot of those, more mass communication type things. So I couldn't, just because I couldn't be everywhere.
Sure. There's,
but what'd you say?
There was just one of you. So no way.
Yes, but I remember. So did you say you had like a life size?
Yes.
Or your face in your store or something?
Yes, everywhere. Yes. On balloons, on poster. I mean, it's crazy.
That's amazing. I love that. It's awesome because then you're so recognizable in store.
That is a good point. Yes. But then you're also recognizable when you're at the bar having a cocktail after work.
Which shows even better that you're a real person, right? Like you're, yes, you're Anne the dietitian, but you also have a life outside of the store. Right. That's so funny. I know that's so true. So at one point,
did you have kind of in-store marketing, like you're the dietitian, even though you're not physically there, but you had pictures of yourself and marketing materials?
Yes, exactly. So, on the newsletters, and one time, somebody had a brilliant idea, to create life-size, they were actually slimmed down versions of myself. Life-size, except a little bit shorter, slimmed down. And they were newsletter holders. So we had a life-size Jenny in every store throughout New England.
Awesome.
Which is hilarious. And my parents have like 2 in their garage. It's probably like rotting away, but they're like, someday we're going to pull this out. Like, I don't know, maybe for my 40th birthday or something.
That would be amazing. You have to get your picture taken with it. And that's just like your announcement for your party.
Oh my God. It's like, so like, I don't know. I look back and I'm like, oh my God, what were we thinking? And they had to get taken down though, because some of them, were getting like mustaches drawn on them and stuff. They were people were, not doing very nice things to the Jenny standees or whatever we call them. So
poor Jenny got abused. That's not good.
God, no. How rude. Oh, so I don't remember where I was going, but so I kind of was all over the place, and more so like department wise, I feel like I was pulled in a million different directions, like, supporting merchandising and marketing and HR and the stores, because the stores, as you know, well, they always want to do these health and wellness events and, support the local 5K and all of that, which is awesome. But I found that I had to say no a lot just because, I was one person.
Right.
So that was a challenge, but, ended up being the role changed. So, Super Value had owned Shaw's, and they ended up taking our program, and we had a couple other dietitians taking our program in-house and got rid of the marketing program or the marketing agency that I worked for. So I ended up being hired internally for Shaw's, but in a different role, and took over the other East Coast Super Value banners, which at the time were Acme Markets in Philly, or the Pennsylvania area, Farm Fresh in Virginia, and then Shoppers in like the DC, Maryland area.
Wow.
So I ended up taking over those banners, and then the role really changed to me doing mostly media. I would fly down regularly to Farm Fresh or Shoppers and do, like segments on heart health or whatever the theme was of the month. And we did a lot of pitching media, and we got a lot of media traction, especially not so much in the Boston area, but more so down south a little bit. So that was pretty cool, but it was a lot of travel. And, thank goodness I wasn't, at that time, I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I was just kind of, career was my focus, which was great. So, that changed a little bit, and then, did more social media and still did a lot of the in-store radio, but very few local events, and, less stuff for HR, less stuff for the employees and things, and really focus on the large scale stuff. So, and then there were 3 dietitians for all the Super Value banners. I guess there were maybe like 12, something like that, across the country. And it was myself and these two other great dietitians. And then we ended up there was another acquisition, and then we got laid off. The dietitians, all of health and wellness. We were part of a larger health and wellness team that was out in Minneapolis, and they laid off the whole health and wellness department, which,
oh my gosh, seriously?
Yeah. Yes, it was crazy because it was at the time where retail dietitians really were gaining so much traction, and the retailers were saying, like, these are our spokespeople, these are our our trusted advisors in the stores, and they were helping, customers so much and doing so much with local events and really the face of the stores. So we were like, are you kidding? We thought it would never happen because we thought we were so vital to the organization.
Yeah.
And we weren't. So that was a huge shock and, major change. So then, I had worked closely with a PR agency when I was with SuperValue, and they did most of the pitching for any of the media segments that I did. And they ended up having an opening for a director within their Boston office. And I knew that I had heard all different things about PR agencies. And I knew that, it probably wasn't the best fit, but also my husband, we had just gotten married, and we were thinking about buying a Cape house. And, it really probably wasn't a good thing to go unemployed for, who knows how long. And I wasn't really at a point where I could start my own business. And, we figured that it was probably the best decision to accept. I interviewed and accepted the job, and we figured that was probably the best route to go. And so I ended up working for a PR agency supporting one of Shaw's biggest competitors in the New England region, which was, yes. But it was, thank goodness it was in like a totally different, I wasn't working as a dietitian.
Gotcha.
Really, I was I was doing some nutrition communications work, but it was mostly like public relations. But it was very awkward just because, I still had great friends at Shaw's and whatever, but
that would be hard.
Yeah, it's a small, a small food world, but, so I ended up doing PR work for like a year and probably almost 2 years. And it was that was probably the hardest, work-wise, the hardest 2 years of my life, just because, it's one of those decisions that, in your gut, you're not going to be happy at a job. And I probably should have gone into it with a better, sorry, Luca's playing the little little bells.
We love
that's my son. Everybody,
we love your kid. Yeah, if you don't follow Jenny on Instagram, you have to follow her because her kids are the sweetest, most adorable things ever.
Thank you. They are. They're so sweet and they're so crazy. And yeah, they're awesome. We actually, right before I hopped on the phone with you, we had a little incident with Lexi. She picked some flowers at the beach and she was carrying this glass vase and she fell with it in her hand, and the little girl got some little cuts on her hand. And I felt terrible. But anyhow, thanks, bud. Thanks for the music.
That was good. I like the intermission.
Anne appreciates that.
Yes, I do.
So the PR position, it was hard. It was one of those, gut decision, one of those decisions that, you kind of know in your gut that may not be the best, but you do it anyhow. And, I knew very well that it wasn't the right choice, but whatever. So I was there for, it was hard. I was there, and about halfway through, I guess, my time there, I had started my blog when I was at Shaw's, but I never really gave it a lot of focus or effort. And while I was, in the PR job, I really started focusing more on the weekends and at night and, doing more food photography and recipe development. And, I kind of needed an outlet because I'm a very creative person, and I love food and I love the nutrition world, and I wasn't getting what I needed from my job. And so I started doing more stuff on the side. And then I started doing some recipe development on the side, which was awesome. And at least that kept me going, because there were days I would come home and, I'd come home crying from my job and saying, I don't want to go back to work, crying to my husband. And, I think of, I just, it was hard.
Sure.
But, So I started building up some stuff on the side, just because I knew I wasn't going to last very much longer doing what I was doing. And I was doing a lot of travel, with the PR job. And also it was super, super stressful and a lot of really late nights and just high stress, like super, short time frame on everything. And I just don't work well with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, I ended up giving my notice. Well, I got pregnant, and which was planned, but I got pregnant and ended up giving my notice once I had enough stuff built up on the side.
Gotcha.
So, had my blog kind of going, had a couple of side gigs going, and then, hey, bud. Can you go into the other room, my love? I wish you could see him right now. He's riding an airplane. It's an airplane that makes a lot of noise, as you can hear. Yeah. Okay, go on out. Thank you. So ended up starting my own business, and then sort of built it from there. But I had Luca, and once I was working from home, I loved the flexibility that it could give. So started my own business and started building up the recipe development stuff. And, things kind of changed. Like I went from doing a lot of the media and a lot of the, events and things to, being able to do more stuff at home and have done some big projects for California Walnuts, and just finished a big project for Planet Oat. They just launched a really delicious oat milk. So did all of their recipes and food photography, and so now with two little ones, mainly that's where my focus is. I still do some nutrition communications consulting, but I would say my focus right now is recipe development and food photography and my blog and managing the two little babes.
Absolutely. So that's a lot. I think you're doing a fantastic job of it. How did you even get, knowing that you like, recipes and cooking and things like that. I think a lot of people are like, how do you get those people to pay you to write recipes or do recipe development? Like, how do you put yourself out there and get kind of noticed for that?
Yeah. Now I would say it's more like social media. On Instagram, there's so many amazing food photographers and amazing recipe developers. But when I was doing it, gosh, I don't even know. I mean, one of my first clients, which is still a client now, is Drew's Organics, and they do organic salsas and salad dressings. And they're based in Vermont. And, I just started, I actually got that gig from somebody that used to work with me, actually a vendor that used to work, that I worked closely with at Shaw's, had a friend that did public relations, and she did PR for Drew's, and they needed, she knew that Drew's needed recipes and images, recipes and food photography to go along with it. And she thought maybe some nutrition work down the line, and, maybe some article writing for their websites and such. So ended up connecting the two, connecting me with Drew's, and they've been a long-standing client for the past couple of years, which is awesome. So gosh, I would say even, looking at my other, the other clients have also come through connections that have come from, previous positions. So Shaw's, working at a retailer, and especially when I was at the corporate level, I just met so many, contacts from PepsiCo and oh my gosh, all of them that, Wild Blueberries and, the oat people. And there's so much, how many thousands of amazing food companies are there out there? And I was able to connect with so many of them just because I worked with them on a regular basis when I sat in merchandising at Shaw's. So a lot of those contacts, like Hood, which owns Planet Oat, every year when I was at Shaw's, we would do a cook-off, a Hood cook-off. And I was one of we basically had consumers from around New England submit recipes, and then they would come and the best recipes were chosen. And these customers would come and basically, engage in a cook-off. And then the winner got $10,000 or something like that. And I was one of the judges for many years in a row. And that contact at Hood,
remembered you.
we kept in touch. Yeah. And remembered me and now knows, what I do. And so, a lot of business has come through them that way. And, similarly, other things just like that. So it's funny because I've written, now doing consulting, my husband always says it's like an EKG, right? Like some months are amazing and other months you have no business. And a lot of my stuff is, I do, month to month, or, it's regular, either quarterly contracts or annual contracts where I'm doing things every month. But a lot of it too is, one-time projects. But a lot of stuff has come through, these previous contacts, either from Shaw's or the Roll in PR or friends of friends that have recommended me for certain things. So, as far as getting started in recipe development, like writing pitches to some of these companies, that was what I was going to say, showing them your great work. But a lot of the majority of my business comes from, these previous contacts, and very few pitches that I've written, where I'm passionate about a company and really want to do work for them, whether it's writing or this recipe development. Most of the stuff really hasn't come from the pitches. It's come from the other stuff.
Interesting.
I'm going to move to another room.
You're very musical today.
Oh, Lord.
So has your blog always been My Cape Cod Kitchen then? Is that kind of what you originated with?
It's funny that you asked that because yesterday my sister was like, I was watching some old YouTube videos of you and Adrian. So it used to be called 30 Seconds with A and J. And, Adrian and Jenny. And that was back, when I first started it. And we had some we were living in Rhode Island at the time, and we had some local artists create a caricature of us. And that was on the home. It was horrendous. If I looked at it now, I'd be like, oh my God. But it was horrible. The premise was, doing these really short, recipe videos in 30 seconds, which was actually sort of ahead, we were a little bit ahead of our time. And a lot of them, which I totally forgot about them because it was, 9 years ago, but a lot of them are still on YouTube. And so my sister was like, oh my God, have you gone to watch those lately? So yeah, so it used to be 30 Seconds with A and J.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple links as long as you promise not to share.
I won't, yeah. But I definitely want to watch them. That sounds awesome.
Well, we had, there were some from. My husband used to do a lot of sailing, and his parents have a sailboat. And before kids, we used to go sailing in the summer times. We would take a couple sailing trips, and, a couple of the videos of us cooking, on the little grill on the back of a sailboat and stuff. So there's some fun, ridiculous content.
Good memories.
Yes, definitely good memories. Yeah. The times before things were a little crazier with the little munchkins. Yeah, exactly.
So how did you also kind of teach yourself with your food photography? You have beautiful food photography. I mean, you make me so hungry every time I look at your beautiful photos, but how did you did you take a class?
Thank you.
How did you teach yourself?
Oh man. Well, thank you so much. First of all, it's come a long way. But I still feel like I have so much more to learn. But I guess I started, well, when I was at Shaw's, I did, one of the things that we did was that newsletter that I mentioned, and I did, recipe development for that. And so I would see the beautiful pictures that I didn't take. I think we used stock photos or, use some pictures from agencies and things. But I was always interested in, when we see food, to your point, when you see food that looks beautiful, you want to eat it. Yeah. And, there's especially healthy food. It's so hard selling anybody on eating healthy food if it doesn't look really good. And, for so long, pictures of healthy food didn't look good. So I guess just a heck of a lot of practice, but also Reagan Jones, I took a couple of her food photography courses, and she has, she's an amazing photographer. And I went to Blog Brûlée, I guess it was like 5 years ago now, and learned a ton. That's a blogging conference for, I think it's both dietitians, but also I believe more than dietitians now. I think also healthy food bloggers. And I learned a lot about food photography there as well. And then recently there's a non-dietitian who I took an online class from. So a couple of Reagan's courses were online, but then, I took some stuff from her in person too. And I believe a couple at Fancy. But of course, those sessions are so short. But Broma Bakery, Sarah Fennell of Broma Bakery has amazing food photography. It's bright, it's airy, and, totally drool worthy, images. And I took her course. It's online, and I think she's still offering it. And I think actually even now she has like a restaurant food photography course too, which, there's so much, so much business to be earned in, so much opportunity in restaurant food photography. So I think she recently launched that as well, but she has an amazing online, food photography course for anybody that's kind of looking to, to up their ante in food photography. And her stuff, it's not healthy. It's a lot of like baked goods and things, but on occasion she does healthier stuff, but it's all it's the same concept. Sure. So yeah, and then just a heck of a lot of practice, but I still, I'm my biggest critic. I still look at the stuff and I'm like, oh, this is, it's not great. Or if, nowadays time is so short, that, I don't always have enough time to think about and set up my shots. And I'm laughing because Luca now, so he doesn't nap. He's almost 4 and he doesn't nap anymore. And that used to be sort of my time in the afternoon to do my my food photography. And nowadays, I'm still doing it in the afternoon, but I just have my little helper with me. And so oftentimes I'm like snapping pictures of him, he's trying to help, and he like will set out the napkins and say, oh, this looks beautiful, and he's my little right hand man. But sometimes it makes things a little bit more difficult.
Sure. Well, you're doing a great job. You'd make it look seamless, so I would never guess.
Thank you.
I had to laugh one time when you know that you were. I think you were recipe testing, and you made like how many batches of cookies? I think you said like a
oh my god
amount of cookies.
Yes. I wish I could have shared with you.
I would have eaten them.
And everybody and anybody listening. We made. Oh gosh, I don't even remember now because I actually I ended up having to make more because I had to photograph the recipe, which initially I didn't have to, but then I needed to. So, I mean, gosh, like must have been like 20 dozen cookies or something ridiculous like that. And gosh, they are good. That was actually for Planet Oat. I used a dark chocolate oat milk, and the cookies they're gluten-free. They are nut-free and dairy-free. And so, that poses a big challenge. And we don't do a lot, we're not a gluten-free household. We don't, with the exception of my mother-in-law actually has celiac disease. So when she's here, we are. But, so I don't often bake gluten-free. That ended up being a little bit more of a challenge than just with the regular cookie. But yeah, those are good. If anybody wants that recipe, it's on the Planet Oat, website, and it's like a double dark chocolate cookie.
Ooh, yummy.
Yeah, really good.
So do you often, is that kind of like generally for you for recipe development? Is it making the recipe multiple times?
Yeah, it depends on what it is. So there was I would say usually at least 3 times, sometimes 4, sometimes more. I did a big project last year for California walnuts where I was doing the recipe had to meet the American Heart Association guidelines.
Oh.
And it was like a pulled chicken recipe, and it actually they have a big lunch campaign going on right now, and it's part of one of my recipes is part of that lunch campaign. Actually, most of those recipes are mine. The photography is not, but the recipes are. And this particular pulled chicken, I couldn't get the sodium just right, so we ended up. I probably made it maybe like 8 times, maybe more.
Wow.
And for a variety of different testers, for my family and friends, and my parents came up and we had it twice. And, so sometimes family and friends are blessed by being the recipe testers, and other times, they're like, do we really have to eat this again?
Like, yes.
Yes, exactly. But that's kind of extreme. Usually I would say on average 3 or 4 times. And for the blog, sometimes it's less. If it's something where we make it all the time, I'm just finally getting around to sharing it on the blog, then, if obviously I've made it a zillion times before. So I might make it twice, just to make sure that it looks good, and then, and then it goes up.
Very good. And then I have to ask too, so you tell me about your seafood is a big part of your just health and nutrition and your life that you live. So how did you always like food? Has it always been something that you've enjoyed kind of working with and eating yourself, or was it something that you kind of accustomed yourself by moving out to the East Coast?
So, great question. And the truth is, I've always loved seafood. Not all kinds of seafood, but I always have. It's actually funny and embarrassing that when we lived in Cincinnati, obviously you're landlocked there. There's not a lot of fresh seafood available, although, now you can ship anything so quickly. But I used to... Sorry, I hope it's not really loud on your end. I think it is, and I'm sorry.
No, you're definitely dominant, so you're good.
Okay. So when we had special occasions, living out in Cincinnati, Red Lobster was out there.
Oh yeah.
And I like lobster. Lobster has always been one of my favorite foods. Right. Like my parents shouldn't have given it to me as a child because they're the one, I became kind of obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love lobster, right? So I would beg them to take me to Red Lobster. And, I don't know if Red Lobster, I don't want to badmouth Red Lobster, but, around here, you would never go to Red Lobster. I'm going to go to...
No, that would be horrible.
Yeah. And do they have Red Lobster in Iowa?
They do, but they're very few and far between. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, it's not really like in Cincinnati, we had great rib joints. There's amazing food, but like Red Lobster is not one of the top restaurants. But I would like, please, can we go there on my birthday and to any celebration? So I would beg them to take me there. And it was so good, but nothing like being on the East Coast.
Oh no.
And then, I always loved, swordfish as a child too, but I would dip it in ketchup. But it was like my yeah, right? Like any proper child would do. But it was like my favorite thing. And I don't want to ask my mom how young I was to be eating it. Cause Mom, did you know about the mercury content? But whatever, I'm fine.
You turned out okay.
I turned out fine. I think kind of. But yeah. So, see, and obviously it's taken, with so many food blogs out there and so many different focus areas, it's something that, we all should be eating more seafood if we like it for better health. And it's so good for our heart and for our brain health. And, there's so many different benefits and it's so, delicious. And as long as you're eating it sustainably, which, nowadays the majority of the seafood, sold, you can always find sustainable choices, right? Yeah. But sometimes it's hard to know where to. I feel like most of the grocery stores do a good job at only selling sustainable seafood.
So too. I think that's kind of been a pretty dominant thing that grocery stores are kind of going toward.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So it's it's definitely something where we eat a ton of seafood. We probably eat seafood, 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes more in the summertime. just because we have such amazing seafood shacks around here and all of that. So it's definitely taken a larger focus on the blog because I want to be able to give people different ways to, more exciting and tasty ways to eat seafood and not just, your boring fish and chips or, your regular old grilled salmon. And so a challenge to myself is really to focus on trying to showcase seafood in different ways. And of course, with kids now, I mean, Lexi's a pretty good eater of any type of protein that we give her, but Luca recently has taken kind of a shift to only eating beans and mainly plant-based, which is fine. But, I would love for him to eat. He hasn't been eating salmon and other things. So for me, it's, a challenge to try to prepare seafood in ways that the kiddos are really going to, enjoy too.
Well, and honestly, like that take that you have on it works really well for my customers because it's a hard sell for people when it comes to seafood, especially probably in Iowa, just because it's, they're not adventurous here in Iowa. And your recipes, they have completely helped my practice because I share them with people who are like, oh, that was really good. It was very approachable. It tasted great. Like they're helpful for me. So I don't know if they're helping anyone else, but they're helping me with my practice.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good to hear. That's really good to hear because it's tough. It's, I think people are intimidated by it and, and if you can show them a simple, approachable way to cook it at home, I think that's really helpful and may take away some of that, scary factor. But I think too, seafood is often considered more expensive and, that's obviously not always the case, but people don't want to ruin these amazing these expensive scallops they just got. But, it's also like when people say that about scallops, I remember talking to customers at Shaw's and, I'm like, yeah, but they cook, like they could be your fastest weeknight meal ever. Like you just have to stand by the stove and pan saute them and they're ready in like 3 minutes. Like, and you serve them with a salad and some, crusty bread or whatever. And you have a meal that's so quick, and healthy and, tasty and all of that. So I think it's just, getting them to try it once or twice and then, becoming more of a routine in their everyday. Because chicken and, beef and everything gets, things can get old. So, there's so much variety in seafood. And I have to say, Anne, I think of you often because I'm like, gosh, I have to get a mussels recipe. As I'm planning all of my recipes, which planning now sometimes is so hard. But I think of you, when you ask me like, Jen, do you have any mussel recipes on your site? And I'm like, no, like, how can I not have any mussel recipes? So,
anytime that you want me, if you start whipping up a recipe, I will be happy to try it out at my home for you and let you know how it turns out because I huge fan of mussels and I was like, Jenny's got to have one. She does. She's like the seafood queen.
I wish that I did. I know. But now that's my challenge. I need to. And, the only reason I don't is probably because I don't think the kids would touch them, but like maybe they would. So I need to do it. And I love mussels too. So yeah, that's my promise to you is to get one up in the next couple of months and you'll be my tester. And I know you have I think I saw a picture of you in your seafood department was it a bag of mussels that you were holding up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my seafood manager is awesome. And he and I try to do like cooking stuff together. So anything your scallop, how you recommend like searing scallops. I taught the whole seafood department how to do it. And now they're like, this is the best recipe. It's so easy. We did a class with it. So yours is perfect. It's the best, quick, easy recipe.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's so good to hear. Yeah. You have to tell them, I don't know if it's probably my favorite recipe on the blog my favorite summer recipe is scallops with this corn and tomato salad. That's like it is just like I can eat that every single day. That's the most amazing thing. So if anybody listening likes scallops and wants to try that one, or just try a recipe from the blog, do that one because it's my favorite.
I'll have to do a food experience with that at the store because, corn in Iowa, that's the perfect sell. So we'll have to do that.
Yes, but you don't like corn.
I know. I don't like corn.
I just remembered that. I was like,
I like to share it with people. If it gets them to eat scallops, I'm all for it.
There you go. And just we'll make you a different kind of salad.
Well, I think it's your background is so interesting and how you got into dietetics, but also just where you come with just your passion for cooking and your passion for recipe development and just sharing food with people. Cause I feel like that just screams you just love to share food. And I think that's the best part about you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's, well, food is such a big part of our lives. And, it's funny with the kiddos and stuff. It's, we have my son and I, Luca and I make usually in the afternoons, we either bake cookies or we make muffins or we have like a smoothie date or,
that's awesome.
It's just, it's fun, sharing it with the kiddos too. And, now we're growing, all these different vegetables. We'll see how they turn out. But we have a big garden in the back. So we're, he helped me plant the seeds and, now we're watching everything grow. And it's just, it's neat to share that because he's so much more likely, like usually he won't eat tomatoes. We get them at the grocery store. He's kind of hot or cold with them, but like he'll go out in the garden. Our tomatoes aren't ready this year yet, but he'll go out in the garden, last year and he ate like 100 of them in one sitting. Like, so it's such a great way. Yes.
Oh,
totally.
It makes a difference.
And he had it does. And we have a local farm that we go to where he gets to see the animals and pick, berries and things. So food is a big part of, our life, but everybody's, and it is, the best thing, with family and friends is sitting around the table and sharing good food. So
I agree. And one day we will get to do that in person.
Yes, soon this year we must.
I'm just going to show up at your house one day and be like, "Hey, Jenny, I'm here."
We would love that. Come in through the side door. I'll leave it open.
Okay.
Your room is ready.
Oh, so awesome. Well, to be mindful of your time too. I know that you are a busy woman and I just have to ask my hard questions now, which I ask everybody. Share with me your favorite foods that you enjoy.
Okay. So you heard probably my ultimate favorite food, and that's lobster, and scallops and ice cream for sure. Like vanilla ice cream, which is so boring, but I love vanilla ice cream. I love artichokes and mushrooms and, yes. Oh, thanks, Luca. Yeah. All that good stuff.
I'm going to always think of you when I see a Red Lobster now. That's hilarious.
I wonder if they used to have like those cheddar biscuits. I wonder if they still have those.
They still have them. Biscuits. Yes. I had a client who would seriously just go there for the cheddar biscuits. So not even for the other
God,
stuff.
They were really good. That's hilarious. None of the seafood, just the biscuits.
None of the seafood, just biscuits and a salad. That's all she would order.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. They are good.
They are. Share with me some drinks, beverages that you enjoy.
Ooh. Okay, so coffee, obviously. I wouldn't be able to live without coffee. Regular in the morning and then decaf in the afternoon. I always have a iced decaf coffee in the afternoon.
That's so good. I love iced coffee.
Isn't it the best? Mm-hmm. Are you an iced coffee drinker in the morning too, or just
afternoon?
In the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right? Like it's so good in the afternoon. I know I'm definitely hot all the way in the morning, but afternoon it's like such a treat that I look forward to. Right around this time, actually.
It's time for your iced coffee.
Yep. Luca, can you make me an iced coffee?
Someday.
Yeah, exactly. Coming soon. And then I love, I used to love red wine, but I actually can't drink it anymore for some reason. I get really bad headaches, but that's a side note. I love Sauvignon Blanc and Prosecco and Cava and like sparkling dry rosé. And my favorite, I'm obsessed with this sparkling water we drink all the time, but Spindrift. I don't know if you have it out there. Spindrift, the lemon one.
So good.
Oh my God, it's so good. I have been obsessed with the grapefruit one, and I wasn't going to try lemon because it was, that's boring. But then I tried it. I'm like, oh my God, this tastes like you're like in Italy, sitting by the water and you're drinking a like freshly squeezed glass of, or a glass of sparkling water with freshly squeezed lemon. It's so good.
Yeah. I like it with vodka too.
There you go.
It's very universal.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Yep. Morning and night.
Do you have a favorite color?
Ooh, I think gray. Now, I wouldn't have said gray before, but like anything beachy, like gray, like light blue, like any beachy type color, sand color. Anything that reminds me of the beach, which, as you know, we're kind of obsessed with the beach around here. So
I don't blame you. I really want to move there. I just need to.
Well, you should.
I know. That might have to be a trip. Like I've been trying to plan some trips of like, okay, if I relocate someday, where am I going to relocate? So I keep going to all these different places. So I need to come your way.
Yes, you do. You totally should. You would love it. I mean, the weather though is, the weather is amazing, for like, I don't know, 3-4 months of the year. And then the rest of the year, we're like, why do we live here?
But that's like Iowa.
Usually.
But Iowa, it's like, why do I live here all year round? At least you get the beach in the summer.
Yes. Okay. Well, if you think that year round, then it's time to go. Mm-hmm. Time to come over here. But this winter actually, usually our winters are pretty bad, but this winter was easy in comparison to previous ones. So it wasn't that bad this year, but it's a long winter and you don't really have a spring, and you know how it goes. But the summer and fall, when you should come in September or October. That's the best time here.
Okay.
Because the tourists are gone, and it's the water is still warm. You can swim, but the days are it's cool at night, but the days are warm. And
okay, I'm putting it on my radar. So don't be surprised if I show up on your doorstep.
Good. We can't wait.
Do you have a favorite scent or a smell?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yes. Probably a beach smell too, but also the beach roses right now around here. Like they smell amazing. It's like this, sweet smell that always reminds you of summer. When the sun like hits the beach roses and puts off this amazing scent and like the salty air. It's so nice. And then lavender too. We have lavender growing in the garden. Nice. And it smells so good. Yeah. And, any like basil and mint and, any of the fresh herbs I love too.
Herbs smell good. I do like the smell.
Yes.
And I can kind of guess what you're going to say to this last question, but what brings you joy in life?
Oh boy. You can probably guess what brings me joy and what drives me crazy, both at the same time.
It's a good balance.
Yeah. No, but the kiddos are awesome, and family, and, my, family and friends. And, probably like the kiddos are, it's awesome to, you can almost feel like reborn. I don't know. That's kind of weird to say, but like, seeing everything through their eyes, when they see stuff for the first time or like start to get stuff for the first time, it's really cool. So I would say, just watching them and seeing them like really excited about something is probably the coolest thing ever.
Aww. That is awesome.
So,
well, I love seeing life through your eyes through Instagram. So whoever doesn't follow Jenny, you need to follow her. And I will put that link in my show notes. And I think you're such a great person and you're so inspiring. And I'm so glad we connected on many different ways. And thank you for today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And it was so good to chat with you live. I feel like I know so much about you, but now I'm like, it was so hard, like not asking you all these questions because I want to ask you all the questions that you were asking me.
We'll get there.
So I get to do that in person next
Maybe
time.
when we
But
get
you're
in person, we can just reverse the microphones and you can just do that.
perfect. Yes, because and then we can put it up on your pod as a podcast episode, because I'm sure everybody's so curious about you too.
I'm a mystery. I love it.
Yes. No, but I love following you, and I'm so glad that we connected, and you're such an awesome, like, I love how you showcase so many dietitians that I would have never, like, I wouldn't have known about, unless it was for you. So thank you for being such a great support for dietitians and kind of helping us discover each other, and inspiring us. So you're awesome.
Thank you.
And it was so good to chat with you.
And with Luca too.
I know. Sorry about the background
That's okay.
noise.
I like it. That's life. Like I told you earlier, that's all about life, and that's what we roll with, right? I hope you enjoyed my conversation today with Jenny. I think it's great her son Luca joined us too. Hopefully you enjoyed that part. Our families are the special components in our lives. So they do shape the people we are and the professionals we are. So I think it's great that he was part of the conversation today. You must go follow Jenny on Instagram. Link in our show notes for her website, her great recipes that she has. It's really hard for me to pick just one, but really the scallops the easy way she cooks scallops is perfection. So if you're scared to do it, go tap into her great resource. My website, AnnElizabethRD.com, is where you can read my latest Embrace the Hell Yeah blog post, as well as all my previous podcast show notes and links to things we talked about during all my conversations with these great nutrition experts. My book is also available to purchase on my website, and there are now 15 CEUs approved for self-study through the CDR, which you can purchase on the website as well. I hope we can connect more on social media by finding me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at AnnElizabethRD. Remember to be great always, find the joy in each day, and to start a conversation that truly matters.